Howdy folks, it's General Soulfax. You're watching that episode of War Thunder Ground Forces. Now, in the last video that I did, a lot of people complained that they did not like me using ultra low quality, and not because I'm using ultra low quality and thus for have a unfair advantage over other players that are not using ultra low quality, but because people just think it's ugly. So in this video I reverted to using, well, sort of medium settings, but at a cost. This video will have lower frame rate than the last video, around the mid-20s frames per second. I apologize for that and I hope you can endure it with me, but yeah, that being said, let's get to the video. This replay was sent to me by Mr. Theo Storm and I thank you for it, I really appreciate it. He's actually a skinner over at live.warthunder. A skinner is a person that makes custom skins for tanks and airplanes. So if you want to check out what kind of skins he makes, there's a description down in the below, and most likely, if I remember to do it, an annotation up on the screen that will take you over to his profile on live.warthunder. But yeah, let's get into the game. So he's driving his Pzkpfwg IV G in a realistic battle match on a Karelia map. And this is your very standard 3-point capture map on Karelia. And that being said, very standard means that you get this map a lot, and you get this map, this game mode a lot on Karelia, and there's a lot of problems with this game mode on Karelia and, well, just the map itself. Karelia's gotta be one of those maps that I really dislike and I really hate because, well, for a few reasons. Mainly this map has only two viable avenues, only two viable lanes that you can go down to, Mr. Theo picking the most left one, which is a very dangerous lane to go down to because right at this point up there, you see, there's usually a T-34 or a KV-1 or any other Russian tank waiting for anybody who dares to go down this lane. But yeah, as I was saying, I really dislike this map because only the two lanes that you have, one of them being this one, the other one being over on the other side of the map when the other spawn on this kind of 3 capture point map is, actually forces you to go through a choke point through which there's usually 5 or 6 both enemy and friendly tanks just shooting at each other, and that's not a very good map design. Another thing is, when creating this map, Gaijin decided it would be a good idea to actually put a lot of visual clutter to oversaturate the middle part of the map, so it's very hard to see anything. I mean, I've had situations where I'm shooting at a tank and there's a tank only 3 meters next to me and I failed to see him. While I was saying that, Mr. Theo actually got his first victim here, which appears to be some sort of AA truck. So he puts 2 shots into him, still not dead for whatever reason, because, well, he put 2 75mm shells into him, still not dead. Third one is gonna definitely kill him. And that's his first kill in the game, and he's gotten himself in a very good position. Somehow he managed to not encounter a single T-34 while going down this lane, and he's gotten himself in a good overlooking position from which he can overlook anybody going down the center of the map, and from which he can actually protect this side of the map if he has the situational awareness to do so. So like I mentioned earlier, in my opinion, Karelia's got to be one of the worst offenders when it comes to visual clutter in War Thunder. Now, Finland is one of the worst maps in the game, but Finland at least has some of the visual clutter reduced by the fact that it's just a snow map, and most of the visual clutter on Finland is just broken down tanks and half-tracks, and while it's easy to actually confuse an enemy tank for a broken down tank, at least you still have you can make some kind of distinctions between them. And now in Karelia, there's not a lot of artificial scenery in the form of broken down buildings, tanks and half-tracks, but there's a lot of natural scenery which blends in very nicely, and that is a good thing from an art perspective of the game, but it's not a very good thing from an actual gameplay perspective of the game. Because of how, Russian camos look, it's very easy to actually blend in, and there's so many little rocks, crevices and fissures that your enemy can actually go through, that this map is just a source of cheap deaths all the time, and I really get annoyed anytime I have to play on it. But yeah, Mr. Theo is playing very aggressively here, which is the theme of this replay. He went down the middle of the map, didn't get shot in the side, and he wants to go up to A, where he stumbles on an Su-85, puts 1 shot into his side, and boom, second kill in the match. I know I talked about this in some of my previous videos, but since 1.53 dropped, some changes have been made to how German tanks work, and after talking about this on both the official forums and on the subreddit, I've come to the conclusions that one of 2 things, and most likely both of those 2 things, have happened to German tanks. Now, mainly the German shells, the Panzer Grenade 39, which is standard for the long 75mm gun, has gotten sort of a buff here, but let's talk about it just a bit later. Mr. Theo notices a KV-1 cresting the hill. KV-1 puts a shot into the ground in front of him, and I also think that Mr. Theo managed to put a shot into the ground almost exactly where the KV-1 shot, but that was very risky for both Mr. Theo and that KV-1, because KV-1 does not have very good gun depression. It's not very suited for this kind of warfare. But Mr. Theo says, fuck it, I'm doing it, and he basically charges the KV-1 here, going full speed towards where the KV-1 was last seen. Now the KV-1 is gonna make a very, very bad blunder. He tries to crest the hill, and with his only 5 degrees of gun depression, he is unable to crest it completely. Mr. Theo puts one shot into him, tracks him, puts another shot into him, and gets his 3rd kill of the match. So already a very decent result for Mr. Theo, and his aggressive play is easily already has paid out. But yeah, like I said, the standard shell of the most German tanks that are equipped with long 75mm gun, the Panzer Grenade 39, has been sort of buffed. And what I'm talking about is the after penetration effects, which before 1.53 were very underwhelming, have been sort of buffed, and you are most likely, when you shoot something deter, you're going to probably kill 1, maybe 2, sometimes even 3 crew members, and you're almost always going to destroy either the gun or the turret wheel drive. So that is a very positive thing. Another thing that I've noticed, the sloping mechanics have been sort of reworked, and what I mean by that is no longer will you bounce close range from a T-34's front plate when you're shooting at it with an 88mm gun. That's a thing of the past. I've actually never since 1.53 dropped a bounce off a front of a T-34 with an 88mm gun. With a 75mm gun, you will sometimes get some bounces, but in most circumstances, if the angle is not exaggerated by the T-34 cresting a hill, or if he's not angling somewhat to the side, you're most likely going to be going through the front plate of T-34 very easily. But we're going to talk about that just a little bit later, just a little bit more, as Mr. Theo is going over A here. He encounters a very unlucky 75mm equipped gun carrier. This is the first tank destroyer in the American line. He puts one shot into him, cripples him, and now the second shot is going to be very easy, gets his 4th kill in the match. But like I was saying, since 1.53 dropped, the sloping mechanics, especially affecting Russian tanks because they are most prone to having sloped armor, have been substantially changed. I still do get some bounces of the turrets of later T-34s like the T-34-85 and T-44s, but still the front armor of the T-34 is not as effective as it used to be, so keep that in mind when you're shooting at a T-34. There's always, since 1.53 dropped, an option to shoot at the front plate and not be afraid of actually not penetrating. Now Mr. Theo advanced to a position that I've actually never seen anybody use in this match. He spots the T-34, puts one shot into his side, and the T-34 is basically dead now. If he manages to get behind that rock, he's going to be safe, but unfortunately he doesn't. 5th kill for Mr. Theo. We're skipping forward in the video just a little bit here because Mr. Theo decided to stick around here for a few minutes trying to see if anybody's going to come down that road where he shot the T-34 at. Now he decides to turn around and go for the enemy spawn, and up to this point in the match most of Mr. Theo's team is already dead, but also most of his enemy team is already dead, so there's not a lot of chances he's gonna actually encounter somebody while going here. And while I said that, there's a Sherman 4 with the 108mm gun. He pulls back, puts one shot into his turret, a very lucky shot that probably takes out both of his gun and his turret wheel drive. And this is basically a very easy kill. 2nd shot, he misses by just a fraction of an inch, taking down a tree behind him. 3rd shot goes right into the joint between the front plate and the side plate, getting him his 6th kill and blowing up that very, very poor Sherman. So he's gonna go forward and move next to this Sherman and go towards the enemy spawn point, and he's gonna occupy a spot, a position that I've really never seen used by anybody since I've been playing this game. There's a lot to be said about Gaijin map design, and the 2 new maps that we've gotten in 1.53 are basically what Gaijin thinks this game is. They think this game can be the new World of Tanks, and while I do think this is a very good game, and in my opinion the ground forces here are much more enjoyable than in World of Tanks, still these are two very different games, and close quarters confrontation in War Thunder don't work as well as they do in World of Tanks. And then we come to a point in the map like this one, And I think to myself, do these people that create the maps that go in War Thunder even know what the fuck they're doing? Because this is just completely, utterly absurd. This one map overlooks the entire enemy spawn, and from this point, one single enemy tank can effectively spawn camp the entire team. And this is just absurd. To park your ass in this spot requires absolutely no skill. You can actually get to this spot without encountering a single tank if you're lucky. And then you can proceed to spawn camp the entire enemy team. That's just completely stupid. Why the fuck would you put this spot in this map? I mean, isn't it enough that this map is just completely random? There's so many places an enemy tank can pop out from, and so many options for getting a very cheap death, that why would you add this? Sometimes I just wonder what kind of people are making these maps. It's just so freaking annoying. But yeah, you will have to excuse the small rant there, but I really do love this game, and when I see things like that, it just makes me so freaking angry. But yeah, we're skipping forward in the replay just a little bit because nothing interesting happened. Mr. Tio notices another one of those half-tracks that appears to be an M16. He puts one shot into him, second shot goes into him right there and secures his 7th kill in the match. At this point in the match, most of the enemy team is dead and there's still a few friendly tanks left alive, and they are capturing the last enemy point, which means this is basically game over and a win for Mr. Tio, but I gotta commend him for playing a very brave match. When I play my German tanks, I'm very conservative, and I try to exploit the fact that the German long 75mm gun and, well, basically all other guns past that have superior penetration at range than their their Russian and American counterparts. But Mr. Tio said, no, I'm gonna go to you and I'm gonna kill you from close range, and that was so entertaining for me to watch, at least. And it shows you that you don't have to be afraid of actually being aggressive in a German tank if you know how to do it. Now, Mr. Tio notices another one of those half-tracks. I mean, I think he killed 4 of them in this match. But yeah, this is gonna be his 8th kill. Puts one shot into him, cripples his gun most likely. The half-track tries to actually rush him, but decides, after taking 2 shots, not a very good idea, puts a 3rd shot into him and gets his 8th kill. The Stag tries to ninja the kill from Mr. Tio, but fails to do so because the target is already dead. 8 kills, GG, game over. And I gotta say thank you, Mr. Tio, for sending this replay. I really enjoyed watching it and making a video from it, even though I got a little bit upset during making of this video. But yeah, my name has been General Soulfax, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.